All right, welcome to Playbook to Prosperity. We have my friend Jordan Zumwalt, who's a former NFL player. He is an amazing guy, and he has a great company that we're going to talk a lot about. And so, welcome, Jordan.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, and you're representing your company. You have the logo tee going, huh?
Oh, I got the logo. I got the hat. I'm at the engineering office right now. We've been getting some things done.
That's awesome. So we're gonna sort of take a detour, and we're gonna first start talking about. I want to learn where you're at right now with Toast Targets, and talk a little bit about your company.
Right on. Well, first about the swag. So I ordered about 1,000 shirts, hats, and everything, thinking I'm going to send them out. It turns out I'm just wearing them every day. I'm just representing Toast Targets, man, everywhere I go. My wife is like, it's a good thing we have multiple of these because they would start to stink.
Yeah,
you know?
That's great.
Toast Targets. So I invented a target system designed to mimic human motion, tucking in and out of cover. Long story short, the reality of firearms training, military, law enforcement, commercial, shooting ranges, this has been a big miss and something that they've been looking for a really long time. They've tried to get it done, but nobody could really understand it, or there weren't requirements for it. There's a lot of reasons as to why maybe this thing didn't happen already. But it's one of those products, when you see it in action, you're like, this is a no-brainer. Where has this been? You know, I'm really lucky to be on that end of a product.
But innovations like this, like you said, it hasn't been around. So how did you come up with this concept?
Well, I mean, it goes back to post-football. So after football ended, I mean, I needed some sort of adrenaline. I needed a fix. You know, I was still going through that whole transition period, which is a monster in its own right. But it helped when I found paintball. You know, I got into paintball heavy. The whole background story, some of the special operators and people now that I'm talking with are hey, maybe don't share the full background story because it's paintball.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I did meet with the Army Rangers like last week, and a lot of them say that paintball correlates a lot to warfare and training. So the story goes, and I got done with football, I got into paintball, and I was just trying to compete. I wanted to get really good. I come to find like there's no way to train without shooting each other in the face all the time. You know, so it's like you go home. I go home from a day of paintball and I'm welted up all over the place, and so I'm like, there has to be a better way to get better without doing this. So a lot of the guys they work their gun drills. They'll use cones. They'll set cones up, but that cone doesn't move. It's just sitting there. So to me, as I'm learning, when somebody pokes their head out, there's an initial like shock moment that you have that I need to pull the trigger and teaching me to respond. A lot of what I learned in football was just skill development 101. How do I get really good at what I'm trying to do? And football, it always taught us you just mimic your opponent and then you play against your opponent every day in practice. So in everything we do, all foundational training was built upon a reactionary foundation. So we learn how to move and where to put our hands, but it's all based upon where our opponent's going to be. So I didn't see that in paintball. There was no way to train that. So I built the first version out of windshield wipers in my backyard and wood, and it just poked in and out from behind like a tree.
Oh, that's amazing.
I had my dad stand behind a tree with a mask on a stick and just poke the mask out. And I went through like 1,000 rounds on that. Then I went through thousands of rounds on the pop-out version of it. And I went out to a tournament, and Andy, I balled out. Like literally, I didn't lose a single gunfight. We won. We started winning repeatedly. I was just like literally like there was an aha moment for me, who's somebody who understands skill development. This is freaking something. And where has this been? And why is nobody paying attention to this? So long story short, I mean, this was during COVID when everybody had free time, you know. And I had to convince my wife that this is what we're going to do for the next 4 years, or however long else we're going to keep going at this. And so the background was literally paintball and creating a capability that didn't exist.
So let me back up just the mindset of that. All right. I get the football analysis, right? That you learn technique and drills and so forth, but there's almost an engineering mindset that has to, so where's that come from?
Creativity. Oh gosh, I got a book of ideas, Andy. I don't know, man. My whole life, I've had a whole book of ideas and things that I've wanted to create and business ideas. And for some reason, I got hit with the creativity bug of starting businesses and wanting to see something that comes from the mind move on. I'm a big fan of seeing somebody create something from nothing. I follow all those different types of businesses, invention ideas, artists, even just like from TV to art on the wall, like all of it is like the idea of something coming from somebody's head and presenting to the world is just it's a neat concept to me. So I'm just creative by nature, I guess. I did dive down the art world. I explored art when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I went through that phase. I made some paintings, some digital artwork. But I guess the engineering side, that's a whole venture. So engineering and engineers, it's a whole it's like this little world that you were not exposed to unless you're in it, and industry and sourcing and product and building one giant piece takes a tiny little or 1,000 tiny little pieces, and you got to build these before you get to here. So where did the engineering come from? I guess it was just, I need this, so let's build it. I guess that's kind of where it came from, was I need a person that pokes their head out. So let's just build a thing that pokes the head out. And then we start my dad with a mask on a stick. And then I was like, well, we can do it with windshield wipers and wood. Let's just get creative. I mean, we had time on our hands with COVID. So, and then my mother-in-law had helped find an engineering team that could do it. So yeah, we went on that long hunt to find somebody that could actually put all this together and bring an idea to fruition. It was funny. They're like, we could do anything, but if you ask us to build a time machine, we're not gonna sign up for that.
Right.
So, right. It was pretty funny about just kind of invention and creating.
So let's talk a little bit about the application of football as it relates to Toast Targets and the mindset that you developed as a football player. How does that application work for you?
So football is on a foundational level, football trains everybody to be successful at essentially whatever they desire. You either have to be the person that is required by football, or you have to become the person that football requires if you want to be good at it. So there's like really two aspects to that. If you're somebody who already has it innate, I don't know the whole nurture versus nature argument, but if you're the type of person that has the ability to just naturally have discipline or consistency or a desire to achieve or overcome, you develop tools along the way like time management, attention to detail, where you're putting your energy. And so all of those tools that you learn in football, they apply to basically anything else you'd want them to apply to. They become a foundational level of who you are. So I did find during the transition period after football is the self-discovery period, like who are you? Who are you? I'm more than an athlete, that whole discovery. But at the end of the day, I think I've come to find that I am a football player. I will always be a football player. Everybody will always know me as you played in the NFL, you made it. But it built me to be who I am for the first 20 years of my life. So instead of going to battle against who I am and what I've become, I just used it. And I just put my head down. I mean, I just shaved my head because I feel like I'm in training camp right now. I literally doing this whole engineering and where we are with manufacturing and all of this, like it's a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of times of traveling and making sure things are getting done. And football had always taught me no matter what, the game is going to be played unless there's like a freaking super lightning storm. But even then, we just wait it out. No matter what, on 4th and 1, your opponent is going to have a play to make, and they're gonna do something. So no matter how tired you are, no matter anything, the play is going to happen. So if you just approach the business and that way, that's kind of how I got to where we are. So there is so much correlation between football, business, and just, kind of life advice. Sorry about that. That just go hand in hand.
So let's talk about the beginnings of football for you. Were you always a great football player? I know you were in high school, but
I was always an athlete.
Naturally to you?
Yeah, I was always an athlete. Yeah, I was I was blessed. My dad's an athlete. My mom's an athlete. Was always had the ability to play football really well. I mean, I played every position. My dad wanted me to play quarterback because he played linebacker, and he's like, I don't know how I feel about you banging all the time, And freshman year, I tried out for quarterback, and long story short, I ended up playing linebacker because I loved to hit, And then it just all built from there. I don't know. I was gifted with the ability to run and jump and hit, and obviously learn, which is a whole other aspect of football that a lot of people don't actually consider, is the intelligence required to actually play the game. A lot of it has to do with reactions and your skill and development and cultivation of ability, but there's a whole other mental side of the game that's a big miss, I think, because the ability to react and read everything that's happening in front of you in split seconds and to make a decisive decision on that every single snap, 120 times a game to 1,000 times throughout the week at practice. And then to be able to game plan and implement like changes on the sideline, I don't know. I was just, I've been blessed a little bit growing up.
Yeah, and you talk about game plan and changes on the sidelines, and you talked also about COVID, and a lot of companies had to pivot, and a lot of companies were unable to pivot and make sudden changes to adversity or something that wasn't planned for. And I think that's a skill set that athletes have that they take into business that allows them to be successful and sustain their businesses.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm more firsthand. I don't have I have some friends who started businesses and are in that whole discovery phase, but I can definitely say that at dealing with adversity, failure, opportunities are just essentially opportunities to learn and adapt. But it's something that football players that we've been doing for, our entire life, basically. How do we adjust on the fly? You come off the sideline, it's midstream adjust. There's a ton of analogies for it. But you have to look at everything with the big picture, is what I learned. And coaches always had that big picture idea of, they could always see, roughly what the next people, what they're going to call, what they're going to do. And they've been cultivating that for years. So yeah, being able to adjust to the nuances of new things being introduced as variables. I like to call them as variables. You have to consider all of the variables as well if you're going to try to look and project far ahead. Like, what are the things you're going to run into? How are you going to run into them? How do we avoid running into them? How do we coordinate to make sure that people that need to know those variables or need to know them? And at football, you come off to the sideline, you have a whiteboard, and it's your corner. If he runs a hitch in cover 2, I need you to stick to him instead of playing off a little bit. I want you to stick to him, and I want you to jam him. So that's just like an immediate fix for something that has to happen. And you see that in business all the time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny as, we talk about transition, right? The transition of going into business and the adjustments that you have to make, just like game time adjustments. What was it in you? Because not all football players start businesses, right? What was it about? Did you always know that when you left the foundation? I always say the NFL is not a destination; it's a foundation, and you clearly lived that. But did you know that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
I would say yes. I've always always wanted to start businesses. Tried the Amazon business. I tried being an artist. I tried clothing. I tried, I don't really know. I didn't know what else I tried, but I did know that I had skills that I needed to learn. I know that I had skills that I already had and cultivated throughout football, had naturally, but I knew that there were skills that I needed to learn, and I also needed to make some money. If for all you people out there who are thinking about entrepreneurship, the early stages, man, there's not a whole lot of money there.
No, you're spending money, not making money at
Yeah,
that
it
point.
takes a while. It takes a while. Sometimes, I mean, shoot, some take off right away. It's amazing. It depends on what your business is and what you're doing. But there is, back to that adversity side of things. But I knew that I needed to make some money. So when I got done, I got into medical device sales. I remember in college, there was somebody who came in and gave us a presentation on medical device sales. You can make $110,000 a year. And to us in college, we were like, holy heck, that's a lot, So I went into medical device sales, and in doing so, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about sales. I learned a lot about owning your own territory. I learned a lot about product. I learned about what goes on behind the scenes. But it's really funny is, I was a spine implant rep. So I was working for Stryker. I can give all kinds of advice to people on that too, but I was a spine rep, and I had learned so much, but it was funny. I went into an OR and I'm like, what am I doing in this room? Like, I come from football. You guys need my advice on how to implant these implants to patients. I did learn an awful lot. I'm not giving advice until I'm fully trained, fully educated, and fully learned. My rep was doing all that, but it was just a funny moment of like, I'm in an OR right now for somebody getting back surgery, and I'm just kind of like learning. It was so interesting to me, and it correlates so much to what I'm doing now because I'm over here having conversations, meeting 4-star generals, meeting colonels, and having conversations about implementing our technology into the way that they learn how to fight and train soldiers. And it's like I didn't serve, So I mean, sometimes I had the thought of like, what business do I have doing this? But I've cultivated these ability to adapt and learn and apply what I've learned in the NFL and in football to benefit so many other people. So it came like we do have a place there. It's just about learning and cultivating and developing what we've already been able to do.
Yeah, I think everybody that is an entrepreneur has what I'll call a gap of where they feel that they're really strong in some areas, but then there's areas they're going, I hope nobody knows about this area of my life. I think that's true. I think imposter syndrome comes up in my mind that a lot of entrepreneurs go through. So
hey, fake it till you make it, Andy. Fake it till you make it. I had one of my linebacker coaches, Jeff Ulbrich, FE. Sometimes at practice you'd yell FE, and it's just eventually it's like you fake it, but then you just become it. Like it's not even a matter of like really faking it. It's just essentially a learning period. But if you can convince yourself you're going to do it, you can utilize FE in business all the time. Basically, just get it done. Yeah, and that gap period of learning about things that you're good at and not good at, that was a part of something that I needed to learn too. I'm not the most organized. So there's so many thoughts and so many things going on. I had to learn a process to stay organized. I have to keep notes. I certainly don't keep things in the same place, but I have my own process of understanding that they're not in the same place. So when somebody shows up to organize my things, I'm like, hey, that might not look like it has a place, but it's got a place. So you had to learn the things you're good at and not good at, but how to on a scientific way of looking at it, of how do I accommodate for those things, right? I have somebody who can help me. I have a journal, I have a planner. You can utilize technology that people have to take advantage and make up for those things.
Yeah, it's true. And I think, you're describing a typical entrepreneur as well, right? That most entrepreneurs have those types of, I'll say, flaws. I'd say they're just not strengths. We're busy thinking about big picture, and the small picture of where things are doesn't necessarily play in. So, yeah. So one of the questions that I have for you is, you definitely have a mindset of you're going to keep running into that wall till you make a doorway. So talk a little bit about that, about your mindset and just
door kick the universe, brother. Yeah. So we got a saying. I didn't know that's what we were doing until I had a colonel tell me door kick the universe. And I was like, wow. So the whole idea of, manifesting or thinking thoughts become things, or just cultivating energy and thoughts towards something is kind of the way that and then acting on it too, by like creating opportunity over and over. My father is a huge believer in create opportunity. Like, okay, because to me, I would always work something out in my head where I know where this path is going to go. And he's like, okay, well then do it then. I'm like, well, oh, okay, great idea. So the whole idea of door kick the universe, it comes down to just you just do what you say you're going to do. So if I say this is what is required to succeed, I do it. If I say I'm going to reach and get a hold of this person, I do it, even if it requires me to contact 10 different people to get there. If I say we're going to make sure that this manufacturing happens, you do it. Like, it's like there was a video that I had watched by Art Williams back in, I don't know, probably the 90s is when he recorded it. But the whole idea of the whole principle of do it is like just create a doorway and the idea of do it is like, even if there's you say you're going to do something, it's great. You just do it. If you think you want to do something, well, do you want to do it? Yes. Okay, do it. So it's like, it really narrows things down past a motivational level I went through a period where I was just trying to find all the recordings I could find on somebody who's motivational. Like, I went through a period where I didn't listen to music. I went through a period where the only thing I would listen to are motivational speeches. And it was never about the person giving a motivational speech. It was just about, what is their message? What can I get from this person? And how can I utilize what they're trying to explain to me in getting better in what I'm trying to do? And it came down to, at the end, that's the just do it speech by Art Williams, to put everything into perspective, where it's no longer about motivation anymore. You just do it.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, because
it's so
as
simple.
Entrepreneurs, we get that, right?
Yeah. You just do it, and it's so simple. It's like, it's funny that it took so long to just get to that idea of, okay, do it. How? I don't know, but we do it. You figure it out. And then also 3 degrees of separation, or 6 degrees of separation. Have you ever heard that saying? Yeah, it is so real. It is so real. I had we needed to get a hold of we were at the Warfighter Conference this last week out at Fort Moore, and there were certain people that we needed to talk to at this event. But to get to that event required, a couple of degrees of separation to even be able to be invited to be a vendor, to meet our generals, to meet our colonels, and meet all the people who are the commanders of our entire army. And so it took a couple of degrees of separation. But at this event, we had the 4-star general who came over, who's in charge of all of TRADOC, came over and gave us 25 minutes of his time on a briefing of the toast target system and how we can implement this, on a wide scale. It's just the idea of, everybody had told me that was just something that would never happen. But like, door kick the universe and 6 degrees of separation, eventually, now I'm having conversations at that level of people about implementing this kind of technology. And it's all because, like, just do it, I guess, and somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who can get you that conversation.
But you don't stop until you get to that end result, correct?
Exactly. You can't ever stop. When I was raising money, going through that whole discovery phase, there's a whole science and world to fundraising now that I had no idea about. Like, they've broken it down to just straight up science on startups and percentages of startups that make it and all of that. But what I learned, like, I had somebody who had told me there's 2 reasons why a startup fails. And they said, 1, they either run out of money, or 2, they quit. And so to me, when I was raising money, part of my pitch is, if those are the 2 reasons that you always run out, or why a startup fails, you can only count on 1, because I will never quit. And so now I just need your money.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So now if I'm never going to quit and we don't run out of money, It's only a matter of time.
That's awesome. So talk about, you sort of glanced off the conference, right? And talk about the experience. I mean, what was it like? This is your first time in, and what are your eyes? What did you see there?
Yeah, so my first time. This is my first time on an Army base, and there's so many of people who serve out there. First, I want to say thank you a million times. That whole world is its own little bubble. Like, it's so secluded or different than our everyday lives. But in the reality of what they're doing, none of our daily lives are functional unless this is strong. So unless we have people serving, we have people to defend our freedom. I learned so. I mean, it was such a powerful understanding of none of this stuff even happens unless these guys are doing their job, and they're doing their job really well. So I want to say thank you to all the service members out there. Thank you for your contribution. I'm trying to contribute. I didn't serve, but I'm trying to contribute as much as I can with what I've learned in my life to provide you guys with the tools you need to be successful. So that experience, I was so freaking nervous. Andy, hopping on base, the first base, I had lost my wallet, going back to not being organized. I had lost my wallet. And so I didn't have my ID, but I got all my cards replaced. And so I'm driving onto base, all nervous as it can be. I don't know the protocol. I don't even know, I just drive up to this giant kiosk thing, and they tell me if I can go in or not. And the guy goes, license please, and your pass. I'm like, pass? I don't have a pass. He's like, okay, well, you need to go over to that station over there to get your pass. And I'm like, okay. He goes, your license. I'm like, well, I have my passport. And he froze for a second. He's like, you don't have a license on you. I was like, no. He goes, don't ever do that again. I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so he goes, hop out of the vehicle, and you're going to switch places with the passenger. I was riding with my mother-in-law at the time. And so she got in the driver's seat. I got in the passenger seat. She showed her license. And then the guy freaking stops all of traffic. They all walk out, and they blow their whistle. And they said something about a turnaround. We had turned around and cut off all traffic to go back to exit. It was the first time on base. I was so nervous, man. We caused a big old scene. I'm like, God dang it. Luckily we didn't have a toast target sign on the side of the car, And then so we got to the check-in. Everything was good. And then getting on a base, there's no map quest. You can't just they don't have a general layout. They have a general layout, but they're not going to, give away the full nuances of how a base is laid out. You got to find your way. Anyway, it was a discovery period. It was fun. It was really cool. It was an introduction to a whole new world. We had met, at this event, they had all the commanding generals that were for the United States Army were present. A lot of the colonels were there. A lot of just officers and privates were there. We had an opportunity to invite people out to the range. Got to meet with, some of the contracting officers, people in charge of contracting, people in charge of ranges, and meet all these people. And it was just so cool to see them in their environment and to see how it operates, and to see, there was a row of vendors, and all of us are, trying to obviously introduce our system as the latest and greatest. But the whole inner workings of the military, how money's moved around, how conversations are had on capabilities, on things that they need, is a whole nother world that just is so different than the general consumer world.
It's just like your first day in an NFL camp, right?
Yeah, no, I trained my whole life for that, brother. I was ready for that. I was nervous, of course.
Yeah.
I was nervous, but shoot, man, I was the man. I'm just going out to do another day at the office.
Right.
I know what I could do, but going out and it was definitely different. But yeah, being the first day of training camp was cool. That was more so just an accumulation of. I guess this was the same. This project is 4 years in the making, roughly, but. The NFL is just our whole life accumulation of that first day of training camp. You better show up and ball out.
Right. So talk about the mindset that you developed, first of all, as a football player, because you talked earlier about being a linebacker that you just to hit somebody, right? And that does take a toll on your body. It does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So I got hurt when I was playing. My career NFL stands not for long. It is what it is. One of my probably biggest, I don't know, I won't call it a regret, but I never got to see my full potential played out in football like I had always thought I would. I had so much to offer my team. I had so much to offer Pittsburgh. I never had the opportunity to present my capabilities to them because I was dealing with injuries the whole time. There's a lot of guys that experienced that, and like in the end, like walked away with a broken heart and a shattered body. But my body's good now. The scars have healed. The heart is healed. But yeah, your body gets beat up. But man, that was all part of the game, brother. As always, my mentality was probably different than some. Some had the same mentality. There's a lot of mentalities involved in football. Like I had explained, one of the D linemen that I was rooming with in Pittsburgh, Ethan Hemer. I remember I said to him, when I hit somebody, I want them to never want to hit me again, ever. And Ethan was like, I just want to make sure I tackle him and do my job properly. And I was like, that's an interesting way to look at it. Like you're out here doing your job, man. Clock in, clock out. You're excellent at your job, and I'm over here trying to inflict punishment. And it was so different on that. And so I think that hitting like that had taken a toll on my body, but I loved every second of it. That's for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So where do you see, obviously there's always in football, you're playing, youth football, high school, college, and then hopefully the NFL, but there's that goal. Talk about the goal of Toast Targets. Where do you see it? Where is it at now? Where do you see it 5 years from now, and so forth?
Yeah, so Toast Targets. To me, I think we play a pivotal role in introducing what a real life scenario is going to look like for the way that an enemy may present themselves, but we're also improving the human performance. So we're giving people who are maybe average shooters, maybe average capabilities. If you train in our system and go through our training protocol for X amount of time on a live fire range, you're going to be a significant threat to anybody who is opposing you. And so to be able to offer that, my goal is the way I priced this thing out and built this whole business. So we have proof and fact that we can drastically improve reaction times, and we can train somebody to repeatedly hit a target that exposes within 0.5 to 0.8 seconds over and over and over again. And to be able to do that is something that nobody has ever seen in this industry before, except for something done on a video game screen or a simulator. So if we've proved, and we're continuously proving, that we can provide that level of lethality to where your enemy never wants to pop their head up again. So I priced this out to where I would like to train, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of soldiers, obviously whose sole responsibility it is to, act out, the acts of our government in ensuring our safety and our freedoms. I would like to give them that ability. So I had to price this right because of budgeting and finances and all that of the inner workings of the government and how they move their money around. So my goal is I would like to implement this level of capability and training on a broad spectrum across the board, across the military. There's a standard already of pop-up targets, of Turner targets, of targets that just stand there or swivel, but none of these are actually presenting like your enemy is going to, or like a bad guy would for law enforcement, or anybody who you would encounter in these conflict situations. And so football taught me we just do that every day. We see exactly what we were going to see on game day every day of practice. And so I want to give that ability to everybody, not just like I've learned it, if obviously this industry, things are expensive. It's the defense industry. But I really, really, our costs are not that expensive. And because I don't want just 1,000 people to be exceptional and to train on this system, I want 100,000 to be able to reap the benefits of this system. So instead of, just having an A+ quarterback, I'd rather have an A+ line, an A+ quarterback, an A+ running back, right? So my goal and where I see Toast Targets on a wide-scale implementation from either the Army, the Marine Corps, Navy, or Air Force. But now I'm obviously still just a vendor. I'm a contractor. I'm an inventor. I'm an engineer. I still obviously am really reliant on them telling me that you have something here. This is something that is of value to us. So obviously I can have these dreams and these expectations and try to, preach it as much as I can. But until they tell me that this is definitely something they need in combat, which I have strong validity of already. But until, we see it on a larger scale, I'm still requiring, I still have to meet certain requirements that the military has. So my goal is to implement and help understand these requirements, understand how our system meets those requirements to be able to give this to our soldiers.
That's incredible. So what are your next steps of your company next, let's say 6 months?
Yes. Figuring out manufacturing. So we've built 25 systems, all of which have sold already. We're meeting with some of the most skilled and lethal groups of our nation to have conversations about implementing this in their training and how they can use it. Obviously, something like this hasn't been built into requirement yet, so this is still an introduction to them. So know that we're going like this. We're starting to we're getting to the point of we're almost at that point where we take that big step up, where this takes a larger adoption. Those meetings that we have had, it is definitely projecting to do that. So I need to figure out and handle manufacturing to ensure that I can produce 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 something systems when we get to that point. And so I'm doing the balance of how do we make sure that we have all those capabilities by ensuring our funding doesn't go towards all of that and doing all of this internal. I would love an opportunity to, if anybody's out there that is listening to this, I would love an opportunity if you know anybody that can help with financing. And we're in a position now where financing would really help. Everybody says, okay, if you have contracts in hand, financing is really easy. But to also convince the government that we can build them all is like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? I got to convince them that we can build these all if they order them, and we can do it on time, because right now the military is all about future stuff and adapting right away. They've just taken so much of the last couple of years have been implemented towards implementing new technologies quickly. I mean, the DIU is a perfect example of development for that exact purpose. But they've taken such an approach to implement things right away. So if they do go, okay, look, great, we need, we'll take 500 of them. I need to be able to produce those in a reasonable amount of time. So that's where I'm putting most of all of my energy, is to ensure that we can do that. And then to finalize a couple of nuances with the product to ensure that our Wi-Fi range works perfect up to 2.5 kilometers. And then the creative side about how they're utilizing these behind cover. In my opinion, these are consumable technically at this price point to the United States Army or military, but keeping it protected is a valuable part of this business as well, but also the transportability. So I'll also be investing time and energy in creating our Pelican case, if you will. Our system is only 30 pounds, so I need to make sure that they can take it and deploy it anywhere in the country they want at any given time. But I'm trying to create the Pelican case for it so they could just put it in, slide it in, pack it up, and ship it out. So that's kind of where my next 6 months is. But I'm also, I'm going out to meet with 5th Group tomorrow, and a lot of the other, I don't know if I'm meeting with a lot of other players in this space and other countries as well. I had a lot of other dangerous opportunities to present this to foreign allies and chose not to because I still have kids and a wife at home, and I'm still new to this space. So I'd rather not go put myself in conflict's way at this point.
Right. Yeah, that has to be interesting. The opportunities that come your way in the space that you're in are really unique.
Yeah, it is. That's why I was it's its own little world, it's just so different than I don't know. It's how the Army and the military talk about belonging to something much bigger than yourself. I mean, football was always that way. We were always a part of a team. Everything we did was team oriented. If I'm not playing, somebody who's going to help our team better be playing. So like the whole idea of belonging to the military and it being a part of such a bigger picture is so, I don't know, it's so empowering to me. It's just, it's just this whole big thing that keeps all of this actually functioning. And I'm learning so many ins and outs of all of that and how it operates.
That's incredible. Well, Jordan, it's great talking with you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you.
yeah, keep us updated on how Toast Targets is doing.